Carryover champ on a Thursday, Bronwyn Bishop. We're not worthy, we're not worthy. Lovely to see you here, of course, the former Speaker of the Federal Parliament. And Mr Queensland, Captain GC himself. I guarantee you, despite how cold it is, he's got a pair of white shoes on and some boardies. Peter Gleeson, lovely to see you. All right, so I mentioned this before at the start of the show, but Bronwyn, what about this? So New South Wales Government offers one-off $3,000 payment. Unions say, bugger you, let's take to the streets because we want you to lose the next election. Victoria gives $3,000 payment to exactly the same workers. Union says, oh, thank you very much, because they want Andrews to win the next election. This is before everyone's eyes about the double standard, isn't it?
Absolutely. But it's more than that. I mean, it was sheer greed on behalf of those public sector unions. During the whole of COVID, they still got a pay rise. They didn't lose anything. They had no skin in the game. And here they are complaining that they're not going to get the $3,000, plus they want a pay rise of 5%.
Correct.
Totally ignoring the fact that the value of your wage is what you can buy with it. And here you have wages chasing inflation, each other's tail, and you might get a pay rise which will actually buy you less.
Yeah, correct. So
the hypocrisy is politics.
Yeah. Sorry, go for it, Lisa. Yeah.
Paul, let's be frank here. The cult of the Labor Party in 2022 is inextricably linked to the union movement. I mean, this is the greatest Ponzi scheme in modern political history. The Labor government's put on public servants. The public servants then pay extra in union fees, right? We see it here in Queensland all the time. They then stack cabinet to get the outcomes they want. And then, of course, they put up, millions and millions and millions of dollars to get the Labor Party re-elected. Yep. I mean, if ICAC want to have a look at, if the federal ICAC want to have a look at something, I think this would be a good one to start.
Well, and remember, in Queensland, under the funding laws that they passed, unions are independent entities where they can spend,
Correct.
And there are 23 of them in Queensland, 23 times more, exactly, than any particular individual who's running.
Than a developer.
Yeah, it's so red hot.
It's an electoral gerrymander.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Now, in question time, they're going to give more time for the crossbench, despite the fact that they are not the minority. It's a bit of insurance if the Labor Party ever needs their support, which they would clearly get. But also, we notice here, and we talked about this as a potential tactic, by limiting the opposition to the number of questions you can ask, you're limiting the amount of scrutiny that you're going to be under, don't you think here,
Yes,
Bronwyn?
indeed. And I think, in fairness, then perhaps the government should give up some of its Dorothy Dixers to the crossbench, because they only got 32% of the vote. The opposition got 36% of the primary vote. So there is a good argument that says that if you're going to change the rules about who gets how many questions, then I think that the government should forego some of its questions in favour of the Teals and the Greens.
Let's see if that happens. The ACT...
They do need an absolute majority to change the standing orders, and that means that it has to be present and voting 50% plus one. So 77 people must be present and voting to change them, not just a simple majority of those who are attending are a majority.
Well, and of course, even though they have a couple of seat buffer, you've got to provide a speaker. It still means everyone has to turn up all the time.
Somebody might be sick, somebody might be this, somebody might be that. You never know. In a parliament, the job of the whip is quite difficult.
It's almost like the lady knows her standing orders.
Indeed, a majority. And let me say another interesting thing. Do you think the Teals might adopt a sort of whip arrangement so that they confer with each other about who's going to vote?
How do they pick who asks a question? I mean, they're all independent, aren't they?
For sure.
So I suspect we may see a whip imposed, or pseudo whip.
Yeah. Oh, no, of course, I don't know what you're talking about here.